The waiting world. I blew a long sigh through my lips. Alright, I guess this will be the round that I'll do this. We both stared down at the checklist in my hand, the incredibly long one that I've been painstakingly checking off. Death in childhood, the item I just picked out to read. She smiled gently at me. It will be tough knowing the people you're leaving behind, the loved ones who will grieve you. It's all a part of the journey and you've done similarly painful lives before. So I know you can handle it. Still, if you need someone to talk to before you enter that life, well, you know how to find me. I nodded, grateful. I was reluctant to go through another life of pain, but I figured if I got the tough ones out of the way first, I'd achieve the most growth I could for my soul, and then I'd get to enjoy the easier ones with a wiser, more evolved self. Childhood death. That will be tough, but it will still be better than the one where I had to die as a premature baby. I suffered, sure, but the real pain was how I felt after I got out of that life, seeing the wretched agony that my parents in that life had to go through, the guilt and the blame that they cast on themselves. I got to choose what kinds of effect my death would have on them though, and that helped a lot. Both my parents were souls who had chosen the most painful type of life to go through in that cycle. Being a parent who would lose their child shortly after birth, I seldom got to choose the effects my deaths would have on the others. It was a once-in-many-lifetime kind of opportunity. After all, the universe and the network of interconnected lives are difficult things to navigate and keep in check. Only rarely did the opportunity arise for a soul to get to choose how they would want their lives to have impacted the others. Even then, the choice was limited by many factors. I chose to let my parents in that life grow closer in support of each other and shower more love, experience more gratitude when they had their next child. The upcoming life I would soon have, well, hopefully I would get to make so many beautiful memories with my parents-to-be, that even after my passing they could hang on to and rely on those memories to comfort them through the dark nights. Perhaps the one after the next, I choose to have a good life. Just one of those easier life options. Stagger out the tragic ones. Perhaps I've been too adamant on completing the bad ones first. I could feel my soul getting a little heavier while having grown immensely stronger from the past lives. The life after this one, I choose the life where I get to live an average, simple life with a partner I love and together we would grow old together. I wondered what that would be like. It would probably feel like bliss after these terrible lives I lived. I wondered if I'd be able to bring myself back to living out the painful lives I had yet to go through after a good life lived. What if I got addicted to the ease and happiness and lived out all the good lives thereafter, leaving only the terrible ones for the rest of the lives I had to live? No, that would be bad, yet that was a real possibility. I knew of souls who had put off all the tough lives for the end stage and they were suffering through them, with only the knowledge that it would all come to an end one day to comfort them. I'd find something else for the next life, something not so beautiful that would get me hooked on the good lives. Something halfway decent, like maybe a good life until I get into a freak accident that ends my life without pain, somewhere in my 30s. There were several variations of such a life as options. I'd do that at a break. I leave the beautiful, wondrous lives for the very end of my journey. Having indicated my decision for the next life, that was the one where I would die in childhood, I left the choice station and went to check out whoever else happened to be in the waiting world at this time. My most recent parents from my past life were still in the living world, and I probably only get to meet them a few lives later, when our deaths in whatever lives we were living coincide. I wondered if we could arrange to be in each other's lives again one day, sometime in the past or the future of that lifetime that I just lived. If we could choose fates that could be intertwined, chose the same time area and jump on in, I would ask them if I ever saw them in a waiting world. But then again, I wasn't as bonded to them as I had been to others in my past lives. After all, while we had a short, beautiful period where we were a family, I didn't have any solid memories of them at all. I wondered about Yua. We had met in one of our past lives in a later timeline, where we were in an adjustment center together, both the victims and products of a faulty genetic modification process. We were the rare defects, as some people rather unkindly called us, among a whole host of other whispered insults. Mutants, deformed, freaks of non-natures. We were in a time where genetic modification was a common practice, with parents choosing to modify their kids to maximize their potential. Screw-ups in the process were rare. but we were unfortunate enough to have been one of them. We bonded deeply in our short years together in the adjustment center, where we kept undergoing never-ending rounds of painful gene therapy, physiotherapy, psychotherapy, and any kind of therapy that money could buy. Our families claimed to love us, to want to fix us, but they couldn't hide the looks of discomfort that they showed whenever they looked at us, looked at our mutated bodies. We suffered together, grew together, and died together, more or less. We cried and comforted each other, even as our own tears didn't stop flowing. We were cowered outside the treatment rooms, listening to each other's screams, then stood by each other's bedsides as the other rested. We spoke of our hopes and dreams, impossible as they might have been, but nonetheless, they were real in our minds, in our stories, in our shared conversations. You were passed first, and I did too a day later. I think I just lost my will to live when my one true partner, the only person in the world whom I felt understood me, knew my pain and was truly there for me, died. I gave up the fight too. I hoped Yua was waiting in the world at this time too. Hopefully we could spend some time together before we went into the living world in whatever time era, whatever place, as whomever we would be. I went to the directory in the waiting world and keyed in Yua's soul ID. Yua had been waiting for me after I had died in that lifetime, just a day after Yua did. We had wanted to go into the next life together, try to make things work out so that we could share a beautiful long life together, as friends, partners, or whatever it was, as long as we had a long life together. But we had different visions. We had felt ourselves drawn to very different next lives, lives that weren't in the same era, weren't in the same geographical location. But we hadn't been much worried, because time didn't matter that much. A few lifetimes apart didn't matter that much, when we would have a whole eternity to be together. I would get through the lives full of suffering first, and Yua would keep a wonderful life aside to spend with me. Whatever it was that we could manage to match our fates to. We had exchanged consent for each other to be able to seek out our souls whenever one or both of us were in the waiting world. That was 3 painful lifetimes ago, and each time I still go out looking for Yua, hoping to reunite in the waiting world, if only for a while. Yua wasn't in the waiting world. Yua was in a pretty terrible life at the moment, based on the info that was shown. Looks like Yua decided to keep alternating between good and bad lives. I felt a little downcast. I didn't realize how much I had been hoping to see Yua this time around. But I shrugged it off. This was nothing. We had forever to find each other. I spent a few months in the waiting world, at peace, happy, what felt like months at least. Most of the time I was in the forest, sometimes I went into the garden, or I was at my soul's home. Non-life, or waiting life as they called it, was an unruffled, calm one. After all, I could choose whatever timeline in the living world to go into, so it didn't matter how long I spent in the waiting world, but it was also where the soul stagnates. I could feel the restlessness within, our natural alarm that we needed to get back to the living world. Yua didn't appear in those few months. I went to the living world entrance and got ready to step into the little leaf pod. It was my own design, something that called to my soul. I looked around and saw a lady in the distance, about to step in a little boat. We exchanged quiet smiles and went into our respective life crafts. The leaf curled itself around my body, snuggling me softly. As it began to flow forward, I felt my consciousness fade away. A short life lay ahead. While I fulfilled my purpose there, hopefully there would be space for joy and love. When I next returned to the waiting world, there were tears in my eyes. I felt the usual jarring sensation as my memories of my eternal soul returned, and that awful sense of loss as I realized that the life that had been so real to me was over. The sinking realization that what had mattered so much to me was just one in so many lifetimes that I go through. My parents, the 2 beautiful human beings who were my everything, they were just one of many sets of parents I had lived through. I wouldn't see them again for a long time, and would likely never see them again as they were in their lifetimes. Not unless a life I chose in the future overlapped with their current lifetimes in some way in their timeline. I wondered what that would be like. I wondered if I would know myself as I was in that lifetime, If there would be a flicker of recognition, I wondered how often the lives that we chose to live through were intertwined in some way with one another. June, are you okay? The frantic pounding on the door and the note of hysteria in my husband's voice startled me back to the hotel room toilet. June? June? Wait, I'm June? This is... Where was I? I had taken shrooms. Psilocybin. Yes, that was the name for it. I am June, right? Wait, who was my husband? Am I my husband? Am I him? A stitch of reality made its way into my brain. I took 3 grams of shroom. Yes, I was out of it. It was some super potent strains of mushrooms. That must have been it. Or 3 grams shouldn't have hit me so hard. Me? Who am I? June. Yes, I'm June. And out there is my husband. Or maybe I was the one out there. I was very much disconnected from time, space, reality, and who I was. I needed to get it together. Why did I need to get myself together? That was a tough one, another really tough one. It would take some time for your soul to acclimatize, she said gently, her voice caressing my soul, soothing the tightly wound knots in it. Do you want to take some time before you choose your next life? I usually choose my next life the moment I was back in the waiting world. It's often said that it is right when your previous life had just ended that you are the clearest on what life you would need to live in the next one. Life would call out to you. I shook my head. To my surprise, the life that called out to me was exactly what I had planned for as my next life after the short romp on Earth. I want to live this one, I said, pointing at the item on the checklist. I would be a woman who lived a pretty good life, right up all the way until she dies in a freak accident, aged 34, leaving behind a grieving husband. This way I would have at least 34 years of relatively easy living, and at least I wouldn't be in pain for long when the end came, short and quick death apparently. Plus she would be a botanist all her working life too. I love plants. That worked very well for me. I had just a few more truly horrific lives to get through, but I'd space them out with these semi-decent ones until I had only beautiful, magical lives left to live. The door burst open, splinters of wood shooting outward and narrowly missing me. June! My husband darted forward and grabbed me by my shoulders. He shook me. June, are you okay? I took a while to focus on his face. Tears in his eyes? He was scared for me? Or I was scared for me? He was me. No, he was him? Yes. I was his wife, June. Yes, June, that's me. Hey, I tried to reassure him, but his name slipped my mind. Oh my god, you're okay. June, I'm here. He stroked my head repeatedly, pushing the strands of hair out of my face. I'm sorry, I was somewhere. It was so real. It was so beautiful. He kept holding me until his tears stopped. Don't do that again, June. Don't take all 3 grams at once. I know we're seasoned, but you really scared me this time. You just wouldn't answer. You wouldn't unlock the door. It's been more than 3 hours, June. My mind was coming back to where we were, when we were, who we were. Yes, I'm June. My husband is... Aiden? Yes, Aiden. Finally, I remembered. June, Aiden. We were at the hotel taking shrooms. We did this regularly to try to find meaning, to try elevate our consciousness, to improve our mental health. Yes, we were here. We took a week off just to do this. June, that's me. I felt a sudden ripple of anxiety. I need to write down what I just saw. It was so real. I can't forget it. Let me write it down now. Aiden sighed and let go of me. He supported me out of the toilet and to the hotel bed, where my notebook lay, full of descriptions of past visions. I wrote about what I had seen, about the waiting world, about the living world, about my past lives, about the pain and suffering I had gone through my past lives, about Yua, about my parents, the many of them. Then I remembered the last part, the semi-decent life where I'd lived to 34 to be killed by a freak accident. Where would I leave behind a grieving husband? spot where I'd get to be a botanist all my working life. The remnants of my identity made their way back to me. I'm a botanist. I'm 33. I stopped writing abruptly and felt the blood drain from my face. While I was there, in whatever realm, in whatever vision, hallucination, wherever I had gone to, I had accepted all that had happened with equanimity. It was all a part of what I had to go through for my soul to evolve. Each life was just a speck in the grand scheme of my lifetimes. But now, with my mind returning more and more to this reality, the fear struck in huge waves. Was this the lifetime I saw? The one I had just decided to enter when Aiden shocked me back to reality? I couldn't connect to the sense of purpose and meaning that I had attributed to each life and death while in the waiting world. The stoicism I had there was gone. No, I couldn't be at peace. All I could feel was fear. I'm June. I'm a botanist, and I may just be destined to die by a freak accident in a year. No, less than a year from now on. No, this cannot be. I was hallucinating. It all didn't mean anything, just the shrooms talking. Wait, I could figure it out. I could look up these past lives, see if they existed. Yua was in the future. That me was in the future. Yes, the short life, the one that was in the 1970s. I died in the 1980s, if I remembered right. As a 9-year-old, car accident. Did I remember my name? Yes, I did. Definitely trackable. Definitely could find out about it. It took a lot of digging through old archives, but I finally found it. The obituary, the picture in the old newspaper, scanned and uploaded online for all to pay and see. That was me. Alright. It felt eerily familiar, and for a moment, as I stared into those eyes, I felt myself almost remembering something. I had never seen or heard of that person before in my life. Not that I know of, not until the shrooms trip. But there he was, in the papers, obituary, same experiences described as I had experienced, same parents. Looking at the parents' names, I felt my heart break. They must have been devastated. I knew they were. No, back to reality. I am June now. If that had been true, the vision had been true, then I would die in 10 months. I looked up Aiden, whose face was wrapped with concern. I'll tell him later. I decided I need to think things through. I don't know, it could be just a coincidence, right? What do you guys think? Hello guys, I hope you enjoyed tonight's story. This was my very first creepypasta that I've ever recorded. I wanted to give special thanks to SignedSyledDelivered for letting me narrate his story. You can find him in the description as well as the link directly to the story and his webpage. Please let me know what you thought of this story and let me know how I could improve myself some more, because this is still my first creepypasta, so yeah, I would be very grateful for that. And yeah, have a great night.